Firstly, just want to say thank you for allowing us to come into your garden and learn a little bit about what you've done here. For our audience watching, can you just give us a bit of an introduction on who you are and how you've come to be now second place winner at the Boutique Gardens at the 2024 Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show?
Sure, no problem. So my name is Paul Smith. My business is called Paul Alexander Landscape. Alexander is the middle name, and I just thought it sounded a little bit more classy, so we went with that.
Yep.
We've sort of been a bit interested in participating in the show. Like, I've come for the last couple of years, and sort of chatted to different people that have participated. See it as a really good opportunity to sort of just put yourself out there, and we entered the competition and we're lucky enough to become a finalist, and luckier still to come second in the whole thing. So really stoked. Had a great team of guys working with me to kind of pull it all together. Couldn't have done it without them. So it's AECM Outdoors. We kind of, got used to how each other work together, and it was, really great experience all around.
So was that a company that you've got a history of working with in like normal day-to-day design and construct?
Yeah, so I actually discovered them through a client who engaged them to build one of my designs. So I hadn't come across them before that, and they did a fantastic job. So that sort of put them on my radar, and me on theirs. And when I sort of was looking to do the garden, I knew I was going to need a bit of real muscle. So reached out to them, and they were absolutely stoked to do it. Hadn't done it before like me, and they were great.
So what does that conversation look like? You just reach out and say, hey, we seem to work well together. Let's do it.
Well, I had already had a concept ready to go, so I sort of sent out an email with the initial concept, so they had a bit of an idea of what they might be looking at. And I guess like me, they sort of saw the potential benefits of getting involved with something like this, and they were pretty on board pretty quickly. I mean, I did reach out to a number of other people as well, just sort of spreading the net. They were the keenest. And
so you immediately got a feeling that they were the ones, they were keen, they wanted to do it?
Yeah, well, I guess it's a bit of a struggle sometimes. They're quite an established company, but they're not the real high flyers yet.
Yep.
They probably will be one day. But some businesses are quite established, and maybe they've got more than enough work coming in the door, and don't necessarily want to get any bigger. So sometimes not everyone's that interested in participating. But I think even if you don't get a single job out of it, I think the whole experience, and even for their crew, like they got a few young apprentices. I think it's a pretty enjoyable atmosphere to be in. Some challenges, but really rewarding just for your personal development, I think.
Well, they get to bring their families over and say, look at this. This is what we built.
I'm not 100% sure who's coming in, but they're bringing the whole team in on Friday. We'll go down to the pub for a nice lunch. My shout to thank them for all their good work.
Yep.
They put in a lot of hours, and it was off their own bat. So, I really appreciate all the help they've given. I think, their whole team at one point has been in here. I think, really great experience for like a young group of guys to be able to do something like this and be proud of what they've accomplished.
So this design is I guess unique, and it doesn't necessarily fit the mold of a traditional landscape. And we've spoken to a lot of people over the last couple of days, and some people enter to build exactly what they build.
Yeah.
Right. So then they want to be able to capture the attention of an audience that meets their demands. Some people want to take risks, and then some people might have a charitable cause that they're trying to highlight. So do you fit into any one of them, or do you feel that this was a risk-taking design, or is this pretty standard fare for what you would do on a day-to-day?
Like we did 3 or 4 designs that we sort of, they were still maybe a little bit unique, but maybe a little bit more sort of what we might do day-to-day. And then I sort of thought to myself, well, it's the opportunity to kind of like push yourself to do something a little bit beyond that. And I guess, I've always... every new project we take on, like it's individual projects. Like, there's always a different set of constraints, or there's always something else, that's defining. You've always got a different client. So we never, sort of
You're not
do the same
cutting.
thing. Yeah, exactly. So I guess we just challenged ourselves to sort of think, well, what can we do that's a little bit different? And I guess we started to think about, well, what actually matters to us? And, we're working on a lot of residential projects. You get a lot of projects with, a fair chunk of the block taken up with architecture or the building, and often there's not that much room left for landscape. So part of this concept kind of evolved from that sort of line of thinking, and we created the the arches as like an architectural sculpture, as it were. And it sort of appears dominant initially when you first come across the stand. But if you look a bit closer, you start to see that it's actually not taking up much of the footprint, and the planting is actually becoming the hero. And it's kind of, what we'd like to see a little bit more of. And it does happen. Some architects are definitely getting, much more, like wanting to integrate landscape into, as part of the architecture. And our lifestyles are sort of changing. People want to spend more time indoors, outdoors. But it does amazing things for the city if everyone starts to give back that little bit of space. Part of the inspiration also came from the landscape conference that was held last year, and the city architect, I can't quite remember his name, but that might be a good thing, because he was just talking about how he claims a little bit of road and makes it footpath so he can fit in another tree without going through council and all the red tape, and that appeals to me. And then he also talks about when you look at the city from a satellite view, it's incredible how much green space is actually created by everyone's little backyards and suburbs. And I've never really thought about how much value, an individual little backyard is actually offering to the city as a whole. So yeah, I guess that was sort of the driving force behind creating something that, to some people is, I don't like, they walk up and say, oh, I don't like the metal, and move on. But if you look a little bit closer, it's not really about the metal. It's sort of, that's a placeholder for the architecture that we need, and is essential for our shelter and our well-being. But alongside that, we've got room for gardens, and we can all do that little bit to kind of improve our city as a whole.
I think sometimes it's challenging for the people that are walking past to see everything, because from the view of this from here is vastly different to down there.
Sure.
And I'm now 3/4 up on these, when down there I was a third of, not even. So that makes it challenging. And I completely understand what you're saying. And a lot of people that we've spoken to have really talked, we've done a fair few interviews already, and we've talked about the importance of using plants. And obviously this is the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show.
Sure.
And so, making sure that plants have their space, I think it matters. Talk to me about what we're standing on. I thought these were timbers from the front. So this feels now like it's actually clay product. What are we standing on?
Yeah, it's a terracotta. It's basically a brick face, so it's a product from Eco Outdoor. So it's terracotta, and it's kind of been impregnated with a colour. It's more of a surface thing. I don't exactly know the terminology.
Yep.
So this is a 20mm thick brick face, and we've used it in a cladding scenario and as a paver. And so, it's quite diverse, but you can build your house out of it as well. And Eco Outdoor have also supplied these glass bricks, which we've installed some strip lighting underneath. So at night, we get some soft lighting coming up from the ground. And I kind of got talked into going a little bit bolder with the colour, which I think is a good thing, because, sometimes it's easy to play it safe.
You get caught in the trap of how many risks do you take, and when you put them all together, you're getting really risky.
Yeah. And I can see, even for me, it was a bit of a challenge for me to go, I'll take the plunge. But at the end of the day, it's a bit of a conversation starter. And like yourself, a lot of people think it's timber. And some people are coming up for, a closer look, which, that inquisitiveness is just, all part of it. What is that? What's going on here? Why have they done that? And I think anyone that's sort of stopped and spent a bit more time, I kind of approach and have a bit of a chat. And when, I just sort of expound on the concept, it makes so much more sense than what's going on. And, I think, even the people that walk by and say, I don't like the metal, they've kind of got the concept, we don't want to.
Well, that's what you're saying, yeah. Have you had a lot of standing and listening to comments from the back without people knowing who you are?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
That can be confronting.
I kind of knew it was coming.
Yep.
I really like Joel from In Style,
Yep.
is it?
He spoke about it with me a couple of years ago.
And he put a post on his Instagram halfway through the year of just random comments that he overheard.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of somewhat amusing, even if it's negative.
Yeah.
And everyone's entitled to their opinion. So, it's just good to see what people think. And, I know that this is pushing boundaries and stuff, but people that are sort of really started to look at the planting and, the different layers and levels, and even just the kind of the little vistas that I've tried to create, they start to see it differently.
Yeah.
And I guess, we were never really intending that this would go into someone's backyard. It's more just figurative.
It's a piece of art, right? That's what it's getting judged as.
Yeah.
Did you enter with a goal to win anything, or it wasn't that? It was really just, we want to complete this. And
I'm quite a competitive person.
Yep.
And I thought we did our absolute best. And I said to the guys, like, would have been stoked to get a first place.
Yep.
But end of the day, like Paul Pritchard, worked extremely hard as well. And, end of the day, you kind of, even the judges, they're individuals. They have
well, that's
their
right.
own
It depends.
individual
There's 3
opinions.
people or 5 people that,
And there was a criteria, and it'd be good to know like where we maybe fell short.
They will give you that feedback though, won't they?
I'm hoping they do.
Yeah.
Apparently someone's meant to be wandering around today, but
Yep.
I'm not sure who all the judges were.
I know that the show gardens are getting feedback tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise. I mean, I don't really know. I just think it's interesting that you put yourself out there, and then you're in the hands of the judges.
But that's like anything in life, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
like you might think you're deserving of anything, and someone else doesn't. So you can't be entitled. You just gotta, And end of the day, myself and the team are absolutely proud of what we've done. And for ACM, they could have been contacted by someone else that built that garden, but they just threw their heart and soul into this one, and I think they're absolutely stoked with the result as well. So, and it's first time here for both of us. Great to walk away with a prize.
Do you think you'll compete again, or do you think you'll have a break? Or
I've really enjoyed it. It's been exhausting, and I don't know if I've been stressed, but sleep's been a bit of a challenge.
Yep.
So, and even just like running your business at the same time, a lot of just managing clients' expectations. I think I might take a break and come back a few years later, or see what opportunities arise.
What would you do differently leading into a design or a build like this that you've learned? Obviously, first time you have no idea.
Probably even just like looking at what actually appeals to the masses. Like if I'm honest, like this is nothing like we do day to day. We've got a client, we get a brief, and it's tailored to their wants and desires and requirements. When I chatted to Paul before, he'd even won the thing. He asked himself the question, "Why am I here?" It's to get more work, and it's kind of why I'm here as well. But and obviously when you do something that is a bit more like along the lines of what you kind of do, and maybe is what people want, that's probably going to generate more work in the future. But at the same time, I was probably just even just the challenge for myself, is why I sort of pushed myself to do something different. And I've looked at this design for more than a year, well, maybe not more than a year, but 9 months or something. So by the time I was getting built, I was pretty sick of it.
Yeah.
But then seeing it,
but then
come
you get
to life,
that trap of like when you write a word and you think you've spelt it wrong because you've looked at it for too long.
Oh, that's probably the case with me. I can't spell very well.
You look at this design for so long that you kind of go, have I done it right?
Yeah.
Because you've seen it, you're so immersed in it.
And sometimes, you're just doing little tweaks, and like, with the aluminium, we did all the shop drawings for its laser cutting and all that kind of stuff, and little tweaks to make it fit sheet sizes, and you're like, did I get every component into that cutting list or whatever? Just double checking all those little things, and it was a bit of a relief when it all came together and there wasn't a bit missing. So
it's definitely different up here. I think that's the challenge, and obviously you can't have everyone walk through it, but it's definitely different once you get up here.
I guess part of it's figurative and evocative, but then part of it is somewhat functional. There's it's alluding to like a little space you can sit, and you've got a little dining space here, like there's functional elements on a slightly compressed scale.
I felt like we kind of hadn't addressed this because we're standing in front of it. So this is a table.
It is,
that
So
used.
I work with Bamstone, Bluestone. I had a concept to create this kind of inverted arch to kind of I guess link it to the other structures. It was more of an ellipse in my design, but it just so happened that Bamstone, Bluestone cut circular pieces out for something else.
So this was
the base is basically an offcut.
And it was going to get wasted effectively.
Yeah, effectively. So we just reshaped it a little bit, took a bit off the top, and then the slab with its slightly grooved detail is basically an offcut of where they cut pavers, and normally it kind of would be more rigid and jagged, but this just so happened to have some very uniform grooves in it. So a great team down there at Bamstone Bluestone. We did it all remotely. They sent me some photos. I kind of mocked up the design from the photos and gave them a few dimensions and rocked up on site, and this was as imagined.
And you were like, okay.
Yeah, and then we had to go like ancient Egypt to get it into place.
Yeah.
Sliding on.
I can imagine.
Anyway, it was easier than we thought maybe. So good.
I think it's amazing that you've gone to the trouble of doing it. I mean, to see a bee on one of those flowers has got to be
Yeah, the bees are loving it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like I like natives as much as the next person, but I think bees are, you know, like while they
The ultimate
it
compliment.
might be better to have all natives, you know, they're still pretty happy having, you know, a few
Yeah.
exotic flowers around. So
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share this with us. I hope that it brings you the work as well. I know that there is a commercial reality to building these gardens.
sure.
And yeah, maybe we'll see you here in a year or two when the PTSD wears off.